Simon Says, Finding Your Superpower and Firing Yourself. All this and more in this episode of the podcast.
The Remarkable People Podcast. Check it out. The Remarkable People Podcast. Listen, do, repeat. For life. The Remarkable People Podcast.
I'm David Pasqualone, and I want to personally welcome you to this episode of the podcast. Whether you're a first-time guest or you're with us since day one 3 years ago, know that this is an evergreen episode of truth and content, and you're gonna be fed quality material that you can not only listen to and be inspired by, but you can apply it to your life. We're gonna take the guest's truths and break it down to practical steps of how he did it so you can too. And so can I. So can everybody that listens. So share the podcast, not so we can be popular, but so we can help you, help others grow, and ultimately glorify God and have a better life in this world and eternity to come. So today's guest is amazing. He lives over in Austria right now. He does international business consulting with a focus in sales. He's an author. He's an entrepreneur. He's a coach. He's a trainer. He's a speaker. But you're going to see why he has all this great success, and you can too. He's going to help us identify and unleash our superpowers. He's going to help us stay consistent, which that's such an area most of us struggle with. And then he's going to talk about firing ourselves so we can have true success and freedom. So I'm David Pasqualone. This is our good friend, Simon Severino. Enjoy the episode and reach out to us at the end and let us know what you think. Hey, Simon, how are you today, brother?
I'm excited to be here, David. Hello, everybody.
Hey, we are excited to have you as well. I just spent a couple minutes telling our audience about you, and they are pumped to hear your story and episode. Before we jump in, we have listeners who are new. This is their first episode they've ever heard. We have listeners that have been with us the last 3 years, or maybe they came in between but purged all the episodes, right? They caught up. When people are going to hear your episode, we're going to go through your story, and they're going to get a ton of gold along the way to better their lives. But if there was one main message, one concept, or one life principle that you're passionate about, that they know if they listen to this episode, they can expect to be fed, what is that one thing, Simon?
Right now, it's really important to create resilient systems for your business. Whatever your business is, it's really important to build in resilience because we don't know what's going to happen and it can change very quickly. So you need self-healing and self-correcting loops in your business to have it resilient. And so this is what we're going to cover today.
Excellent. Excellent. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump right into Simon's story. And Simon, we start off from your birth because everything that happened to us, good, bad, or ugly, it makes us who we are today. So you just go chronologically from your birth through today, and we'll dialogue along the way and ask questions. But did you grow up only child, brothers and sisters, mom and dad, broken home? What was your upbringing like?
I was an only child. I was born in Rome. My mother from Austria, my father from Italy. And they divorced when I was 4 years old. And so I was in Austria in the winter and in Italy in the summer, which is on one side, it's best of both worlds, skiing and the beach. And on the other side is, of course, loneliness, right? And feeling guilty for family breaking apart, which many kids of divorce know that you think you are wrong or something's wrong. And that's a pretty heavy feeling to have. And so how I coped with it is that I tried to be funny and to be a good boy, like to be smart and to be an achiever. And so I've became an achiever kind of person, right? So 10 years later, 20 years later, I realized I was really one of those alpha people who explore, who pioneer, who create their own path. And speaking resilience, because we said today we talk about resilience, I decided with 18 that I had no clue what I should study. So deciding for university, I had absolutely no clue. What is my superpower? What am I here to contribute to the world? I had zero idea, zero clarity on that. And I am in awe that we expect people with 18 to know that. So I didn't know that. And so my decision was, before I do anything, let me have clarity about what's my superpower, what am I here to contribute. And so I picked philosophy as a major because I knew, okay, I'm just winning 3 years of time here. I'm winning time to gain clarity. Let's look at this whole thing. And so that's what I did. I won three years to think about it and to try different things. And then I find out that some things were attuned to me than others. And so I found a pattern. And I say, okay, in front of people, I'm better than not in front of people. With responsibility, I'm better than with fewer responsibility. And I like it when you can see results and you can celebrate results. Knowing that about me, it was clear where my path is. And so I became a coach. My thing was to be a coach, and specifically a go-to-market, a sales coach, because that's where you deal with people, you get big problems, and when you solve them, there is chiging, and hooray, hooray. So that was my thing. Big problems, intellectual stimulation, emotional stimulation, but then also the celebration of the results.
So during this journey, what are the steps you took to find this clarity? So if our listeners now, I mean, I'm 46 and sometimes I feel like I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, right? We all go through these ups and downs and sometimes we reinvent ourselves. But for the people out there right now struggling with who they are and what their purpose is and where they're going next, what were the steps you took, Simon, to figure out who you are?
Very simple. I did look around me. Who has a problem that I can help solve? And then solving it. The first 10 problems I solved for free or almost for free. Because the learning part for me was, what's my superpower? What is easy for me that maybe is hard for others, but it's easy for me. When you find that, that's your superpower. What comes natural to you? What comes easy to you? If you find that, and so in my 20s, it was, can I test as many different contexts as possible? You know, front row, back row, big team, small team, solo. Trying different industries, different roles until it hits you. And when you find that thing that comes easy to you, then stick with it. And then the next thing is, who has a problem that you can help solve with this superpower? And so I did it for free. I just solved that kind of problem. And by doing that, I realized, look, this is my strength, this is my weakness, this is my strength, this is my weakness. This is how you gain that clarity. And after 10 times, you have the clarity. Now it's about moving from exploring to just focusing on that and doing that every day.
I think that's great advice. And I've seen that in my own life. I remember one of the master carpenters who worked on, like, I don't know what it's called, but in America, we have Air Force One. It's like the president's aircraft, but they also have boats. And the master carpenter who worked on the boat, I was actually a relation through marriage to. And he said he used to just go to people and work for free. Say, hey, I'll give you a week of my time. You just teach me your art, teach me your craft. And that's how he learned most of what he did. So that's one of the things you're saying to the listeners as they're trying to figure out what they're passionate about, what they're good at. Give it away for free as testing so you can figure out that gift. Is that correct?
Correct. And then, so don't be too fancy in the beginning. Just do what's needed from you right now around you. And then the second stage, now that you know your superpower and that you know who needs it, now you switch gears. Now you obsess. Now you have a focus. So I always say stage 1 was you were underwater like a turtle. But now you are in stage 2. You are now fast like a cheetah. This is cheetah intensity now. The next stage for the next years, you do just this one thing every day, a ton of hours. So what I did then next was, all right, I'll pick my lane here. And I said, I'm a coach for go-to-market topics. And I'm here to solve it for entrepreneurs. That was 21 years ago. I'm now 42. I did not move by 1 millimeter from that. So every day, the last 21 years, I've been serving entrepreneurs to solve go-to-market problems. So the next stage is just about focus or consistency. So make it easy for the universe to bring you projects that fit you by staying true to yourself. And don't wiggle around, don't open it up again to different client groups or different problems. Stay with one client group, one problem. And the only enemy here is distraction. If you stay with that, now all your energy, all your focus, your whole body, your whole being is in total alignment because you are doing one thing. Think of children. When my kids laugh, they laugh with their whole body. You know, they are fully in that laughter, in that moment. Why? Because they are in a totality. They don't separate their mind from their body. You know, it's one thing. They laugh with their belly. Like, ah! And adults, they separate your head from your body, etc. But kids are in totality. And so if you stay with just your topic for the people you're here to serve, you stay in integrity and in totality. It's a totally different energy, and you need less energy. So you are not dissipating energy, losing energy around. You are not scattered around. So that was the second important thing. The first one was explore. The second was consistency. And now people will say, oh, but maybe it's boring to do one thing all the time. It's not. And actually, if you look at artists, the best artists they impose themselves some boundaries, some limiting conditions. For example, every architect can build a house. But if you try to build a house on a steep hill with a huge rock, that's a challenge. That's a boundary condition. Most architects will say, I don't do that. But if you do that, that house will be remarkable. It will be a piece of art. And you have to integrate that rock into the house somehow. So if you can pull that off, that's an amazing piece of art. Mm-hmm. That's why boundary conditions are actually pretty important. Or imagine you start your Instagram and you say, I'm just doing black and white. It will be so much more impactful because that boundary condition will make your eyes sharper. You will take better pictures if they are just black and white. So boundary conditions are not boring. They're actually helping you be more creative. The only thing is, don't get distracted. Don't lose your focus. Now that you have your focus, stay with it and let it work for you.
And then when people are doing this and they're moving forward, they're finding their passion, they're testing the waters, and they find this, and now it's stay consistent. Most people, and it's like fitness is a perfect example because you can see it. Most people know how to work out. They just don't, or they push it off, or they make excuses, or they choose eating's more important than balanced diet. To stay consistent for yourself and for all the clients you've worked with over the years, what are 2 or 3 tips you have for our listeners just to stay the course, to stay consistent?
Make it small and make it frequent. Like for workout, if it's too tough for you to do an hour of CrossFit, well, I can show you here in my room. I have some dumbbells, I have some kettlebells just scattered around the room. So if I want to go to the toilet, I have to pass through them. And when I pass by them, I just do 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Over the course of a day, I will do even more than an hour. But it's small and it doesn't create pressure on me. And it compounds. So maybe if you do this for weeks, then you are ready for a bigger workout. And that's fine. Or for example, I run every day. And it doesn't need to be a very long run, but it's 5 years that I have not stopped running every day. Just once I stopped for 3 days because I had the famous virus. So, but the 4th day I was out there again. So, and because it's simple and it's routine, it's like brushing my teeth. I don't have to think about it. I don't check the weather before I go out. I just go out. It's 6:30, I go running. So it becomes then a habit. If you make it small and if you make it frequent, it becomes much easier to do than to skip it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I wake up tomorrow, it's so easy for me to just go running. It would be really hard for me to not go running. Like really hard. My body is trained for that. It's the most normal thing now.
Yeah, and I think that's great advice, because would you say that the mental state you have is, this is just scheduled in my day, this is going to happen? Because it kind of like cuts away when you decide, IDE at the end of any word is to kill off. But when you decide, I'm going to run every day at 6, then you don't look for other options or excuses. Like you said, what's the weather like? How do I feel? Oh, is my leg sore? You just do it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I stopped accepting excuses because, in the first weeks, the first months, stuff will hurt, your feet will hurt, etc. And so I just have stopped accepting excuses from myself, and then it became a daily run. Later on, 3 kids later, then I had some discussions, of course, because, when you raise kids in the morning, there's a lot of stuff to do. You have to prepare them, to feed them, etc. And then I had even more pressure from the outside. What? You just go running? You don't care about, family stuff? You go running every day? That's so selfish. And I was questioning my habit. Hey, am I selfish here? And that was also a very important stage of commitment to myself, to realizing, how can I best serve everybody? My family, all the clients that come later in the next 8 hours, and be in the evening again a good father and a good husband. There is only one way. You start with self-care. First, it's 2 hours me time. Then I serve my family, then I serve my clients. But first comes me time. And I had to negotiate that with myself. Is that selfish? Or is it actually the best thing for everybody? Mm-hmm. And when I realized it's actually the best thing for everybody, because if I burn out in the middle of serving, I'm not really serving them. I have to come with full batteries to making the breakfast, preparing for school, etc. So it's actually my duty. And so that was also a very important commitment to myself in my 30s, when I said, it's not just a habit, it's who I am. I am a runner. I am somebody who cares for himself, because then he can really serve everybody.
Yeah, I think that's very excellent, because you can't give what you don't have. I mean, if you don't have money, you can't give money. If you don't have love, you can't give love. And if you don't have energy, you can't give energy. So that self-care is not selfish. It's as long as it's done in balance, it's important. So thank you so much for sharing that, Simon. So let me ask you another question now. So you're born between your birth and between when you figured out what you wanted to do with clients, where your superpower was, the niche that you enjoyed. Between your birth and there, did we miss anything in your story that was significant before we move forward?
I think the first part, exploring and finding the superpower. The second part, learning to stick to it. And then the third part, learning to defend it because the world will question it. And when the world questions it, I had to learn how to actually defend it, how to abide in that space and say, no, I know that this is good for me and nobody else can take care for me if I don't do that. So that was really important. And you will have that in waves with life cycles and life events. And then when your parents need you, etc., it will become important again that you actually take care of yourself first. Otherwise, you will burn out. As an entrepreneur, burnout is a very real risk. There are two big risks as an entrepreneur. The first one is your own burnout, and so that you give up. Giving up is the biggest risk. And the second one is that you run out of cash. So your pipeline needs always to be full. You need to have more opportunities than you actually pick. These are the two big risks, and we have to talk about them. Burnout and how you prevent burnout. And I think we covered that with the self-care and making it sacred and making it a part of your day. And then the second part is how you have your pipeline always full. Always full.
And for our listeners, because we have listeners of all, not just nations, but all different backgrounds and cultures and demographics. For sales, that's a common term, the pipeline, the sales pipeline. Define what a sales pipeline is, because even if you're not in sales, whatever you do that brings your livelihood, if you're an accountant, even if you have a cleaning business, you always have to have that sales pipeline full. So Simon, explain what a sales pipeline is.
So a sales pipeline is how many opportunities for work do you have right now? In sales, you say, okay, there is an initial stage, awareness, interest, engagement, closing, delivering, retaining. Those are the typical stages of a pipeline. So for example, you might say, how many people want to work with me? How many people did I talk to already? How many people are ready to start working with me? This could be a 3 stages pipeline. If you have a very simple overview and you just move the names from this stage to that stage, that would be a pipeline. And so the first question is, how many new conversations did I start that might become a client soon? That's the first part of your pipeline. Let's say you have 5 people in there. And then in the middle of the pipeline is, okay, how many people am I talking to about working together? So they're almost ready to work with me. Let's say you have 5 there. And then the last bit is, how many did I send an offer or a statement of work to? And they're deciding if they start working with me, and then they will pay to start. So that's the last bit of your pipeline. All those 3 parts need to be full all the time. If you start working more in the business than on the business, now you do your client work, you solve your clients' problems, you solve their problems day in and day out, and you forget about your pipeline. Now what will happen is you solve all their problems, and that's fine. And after 2 months, you have solved all their problems. They say, thank you, bye-bye. And now you go, oops, what do I do now? I need a new client. Mm-hmm. But it's too late, because it takes you probably a couple months for that whole, starting the conversation and going deeper and then closing the deal. So if you want a client in 3 months, you have to start a new conversation with a stranger today. That's the pipeline process. The first part we call prospecting. You start talking to strangers. Hey, how are you doing? What do you need? And then you intensify that, and then you close the deal. That whole thing is a pipeline. So what I see happening is that people love doing what they do, but they then forget working on the pipeline, on their business. And that's a common that's a problem, because you don't see it happens suddenly, gradually, right? So you don't see it. It's not a big problem if you don't do nothing now, but in 3 months, you will have no clients.
Mm-hmm. You'll go from your highest sales month to your lowest.
Yes, and that can be painful. That volatility is like a whiplash effect, and you want to smoothen that out. That's why it's important to always have a little bit something going on in the pipeline, and ideally you have a pipeline always full, and you pick your clients from the pipeline.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice. Now, let me ask you a question. Most sales managers, sales coaches, they're first salespeople. You went right from figuring out what you want to do into the consulting. Do you get a lot of pushback with that? Or do people just see, hey, he's had a bunch of successes, let's roll with it?
Well, after studying and finding out that coaching is my thing, I went into a big advisory that was operating globally. And I was a junior consultant, then senior consultant, junior project manager, senior project manager, partner. So I went through the whole learning path, and I said yes to every project. And the biggest and the hardest project was me. Who comes to New York? We have to do New York market entry strategy with this big brand. Me. And from New York, who comes with us to Paris? We have to merge the two companies, the two big brands. Me. So I was always learning, still in this totality, right? Totally immersed in that, being in the big projects, solving the big problems. And then from there, I went and did the same thing, but on my own. And then I was a freelancer, doing the same thing. Solving the go-to-market problems for entrepreneurs. And then from there, I became the bottleneck of my own business. I was the coach. Now, at some point, the thing that you have started becomes blocked by you. So you become the bottleneck of your own company at some point, because, there's a limit of your day, and you can only be in one city at a time. Now with technology, you can be in multiple cities in a day, because you can Zoom in the morning in Shanghai, and at lunch you can Zoom with London, and in the evening you can Zoom with San Francisco. But still there is a limit, right? And so you become the limiting factor at some point. And when you become that limiting factor, that's when the next shift is calling you.
Yes.
This is when you move. You have to fire yourself from operations. You have to fire yourself from being the delivery, the client worker. And this stage is when you move from star to galaxy. You are not the star anymore. It's not about your performance anymore. So this happens to you if you are a manager. So if you are a great salesperson and you become a sales manager, or if you start a business and then you become the owner of the business, not just the operator of the business, but actually the owner of the business or the CEO of the business, now you're shifting from improving your performance to now enabling the performance of others.
And that's a huge and important transition. So when you are looking at these companies, especially if you're working with, let's say, a small business, like you said, it's natural. The team that probably started the business and grew the organization, now they're still trying to be hands-on getting things done. And they're like, well, how can I replicate my brain? How can I replicate my mouth? What is the type of suggestions you'd be giving them that our listeners who are business owners need to hear to make that transition within their own world?
It's exactly how you say it. You have to replicate your brain and replicate your mouth and replicate your hands. And there are many ways to do that. One is to let your knowledge work for you. For example, lending your IP, intellectual property. So the first step is always write it out of your head and into something. So for example, if you ask yourself, what am I doing in week 0, in week 1, in week 3 with clients? And you create a series of videos, now you are teaching. So now you are multiplying. If you do a series of videos, I created a series of videos for 60 days. That has become a certification program. I'm now certifying strategy sprints coaches. So I'm training trainers. That's how you multiply yourself. You create other experts by sharing your processes, your knowledge, your tools. So you can create a certification program. That can become a franchise. My business became a franchise. This is where you get paid. You are lending your IP to others, and they pay to use the brand, to use the processes, to use the tools. Another way is to write a book. I just wrote a book. It's called Strategy Sprints. Came out in English. But now my publisher has won a contract with the Chinese publishing, and they are translating it into Chinese. So I did do nothing for that. I didn't even know that they are negotiating. I just got informed, Simon, we just got the deal signed. Your book is going to be translated in Chinese. I said, wonderful, guys. Congrats. I didn't even know you were doing this. So this is how your IP starts working for you. And you just get informed. There is more money on your bank account. Thank you. That's passive income at some point.
So now, with working with these organizations, you're being consistent. You found your passion. You're being consistent. Bring us through your life to today. Where in that gap, was the growth? You said you started not franchising, but you started the intellectual property. You started making the certification program. You wrote the book. So between this point and where you are today, catch us up to speed.
Yeah, so the next challenge was firing myself from operations. So I was enjoying what I do, but I was actually blocking the growth. So I had to pull myself out of it. And this is when your ego comes in and says, but I am the business, I am the delivery. No, you're not. It's your knowledge, your processes, your tools, the things that you do, and that you can teach to others. So I became from being the coach, the delivery mechanism, to being the teacher of the coaches. So at some point, you will probably move from operator to teacher, which is more of a supervisor role. And when you move into that role, your ego will say, but I want to be there and get the applause when something works and get the thank you, etc., and see the results. Don't worry, because you will still have the same thing for your team. So they will need you, and you will have enough tasks there. And also, you will get completely new challenges. Legal, contracts, every country is different. Supply chains, negotiating with vendors, payroll issues. So a full set of new problems will come to you. It will not be boring, and you will have new exciting tasks that you absolutely have no idea how to solve. and you will tackle one after the other.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yes. So where's Simon today? Where are you heading, and how can we help you get there, brother?
I am very happy with where I am. And for me, the goal is to keep the balance of being a good husband, a good father, and a good CEO, and a good athlete, and keeping those four things in balance. If I lose the balance into this four thing, then I would have a problem. So for me, it's keeping that in balance. And one part was digitizing everything so that it can happen without flying around, so that many countries can have that. And so I'm adding coaches right now so that we can add more time zones, so that if we help more entrepreneurs regain time and increase sales, we don't have to fly there, but they will have a coach in their time zone. So one thing that I'm looking for is hiring more coaches. And the other thing that I've been building is for our clients, how they can become partners to each other. So after a 90-day sprint, which is a one-on-one coaching, you have doubled your revenue and you have now more time because you have better systems, you're better organized. But what happens after 90 days? Entrepreneurship is a longer thing. You will still 15 years on this journey of being an entrepreneur. So how can you find others who are on this path, learn from them, support them, challenge them, and find affiliate partners, people who can promote you, that you can promote. You can make introductions for each other. When they write a book, you give them an Amazon review as a support, and the other way around. So I've created a community, the Joint Venture Club, where people can become affiliate partners of each other, support each other, coach each other. And that's a community that is dear to my heart, and that's my favorite bunch of people now. It's 45 people, and we are coaching each other, challenging each other, giving master classes to each other. And once a month, expert teachers from the outside come in and they teach us something that they are better at than we are. And so they coach us once a month.
Excellent. Now, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you, Simon, or learn more about your programs?
So I hang out at strategysprints.com. The book, you can find it on Amazon. It's called Strategy Sprints. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Simon Severino, where once a week I share some things, some mistakes and some learnings that I did along the way. And if you want to find the tools that we use in coaching on how to grow a business, you can find them at strategysprints.com.
And we'll put links to all of that in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen. So now, Simon, let's ask this question. There are men and women out there who truly are gifted at problem solving, and they don't even see the value in themselves. And they're like, in the grind every day working for someone. And you talked about working for an international company and moving up through the ranks, and now you're running your own consulting business. These people have the qualities and they have the talent, but they don't even know where to get started, how to get started. So it sounds like you put together a program to help them get started on the consulting path in a formal way that's going to build their confidence that, oh, I can do this. I am good at this. Is that correct?
We do have a program that increases sales for B2B businesses, but they have already a business. And then we have a community where those entrepreneurs can find affiliate partners. So they have a business and they want to find more ways, more channels to amplify their reach and to find more customers. So if people listening, they run a B2B business and they want to either increase sales or regain more time, then I can help them in a couple of ways. They can go to strategysprints.com.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, brother, it's been great. I've learned a lot. I know our listeners have too. But ladies and gentlemen, like our slogan says, don't just listen to great content from Simon. You got to do it each day. You got to repeat it each day so you can have a great life in this world and most importantly, eternity to come. So Simon, between your birth and the end of this conversation, is there anything we miss or any final thoughts you want to leave the listeners with?
Thank you. We explored a lot of ground. The only thing that I would say is keep rolling, everybody. Keep rolling.
All right. We're going to keep rolling in life, but we're going to cut this episode off. So, ladies and gentlemen, take this episode, replay it, make sure you're taking notes and applying those notes. Reach out to Simon, share this podcast with your friends, not just so we're big and famous, but so we can help more people just like you, right? We help each other grow. Also, pick up Simon's book. Check out the show notes for the direct link in Amazon to whatever country you're in. Check out our book, Remarkable People, Volume 1. Guests just like Simon wrote a chapter. They're experts in the topic, and it's just intended to help you heal, grow, and overcome. And Simon, it's been a true honor to become friends, and I really appreciate you, brother. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Keep rolling.
All right. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you in the next episode. Ciao.
The Remarkable People Podcast. Check it out. The Remarkable People Podcast. Listen, do, repeat. For life. The Remarkable People Podcast.